The best electric toothbrush, all things considered, is the Oral-B Smart 1500 for those in the USA, the Smart 2000 for those in Canada, the Pro 3 3500 for UK and Central European residents, and for those living in Australasia, the Pro 3000. They are all essentially the same brush, just with different names for different parts of the world. I regard these as the best overall brushes because they have the essential features I look for in an electric toothbrush and are good value for money. They're not what I would regard as budget brushes, but they are at the lower end of electric toothbrush pricing. Despite this, I've found they clean my teeth just as well as brushes that are far more expensive. If you are specifically looking for a budget option or the ultimate toothbrush, then continue watching. It's worth knowing that I'm not paid or sponsored by any toothbrush brands. I buy the brushes I test. I've tried several hundred different models to date. Whether you buy a Sonicare, Oral-B or an Aquasonic, it makes little difference to me. I just want you to choose the brush that works best for you and your budget. I do make a small commission should you buy via any of the affiliate links in the video description, but doing so won't cost you any more and helps support the channel. My recommendations don't tend to change from one month to another, but particular promotion or changes to product ranges can have an impact. Search electricteeth Best Electric Toothbrush to view my most up-to-date recommendations. What I look for. There are lots of ways to judge a toothbrush. The main criteria I consider for the best overall choice are cost, how well it cleans, does it include the essential features, a pressure sensor, a timer and a pacer, is it reliable long term? There are other factors that I also consider, but I wouldn't say these are as important unless you have a specific requirement for them. These include noise, how easy it is to clean, how easy it is to remove the brush heads, battery life and what the charging experience is like, brush head range and performance, how well additional features and technology work. The ultimate toothbrush. Having spent the best part of a decade testing toothbrushes, I've gained lots of insight from extensive research and hands-on testing, but some of the most valuable feedback comes from other users, both new and experienced. I've found the vast majority just want a good value brush that cleans the teeth well. That's exactly what my recommended models offer, but many people still ask me what is the absolute best irrespective of price. In this instance, it is the Philips Sonicare Diamond Clean 9900 Prestige that is my top pick, no matter where in the world you are. The real-time tracking is as good as any implementation I've seen. The USB charging travel case is one of the best available today. It's lovely and compact. Being able to automatically adjust the intensity of the brush is a useful feature that helps prevent new and even experienced users from doing unnecessary damage to the teeth and gums. You won't find it cleans the teeth much better than my best overall brush, but the extra features and accessories make this the most complete all-round electric toothbrush experience in my opinion. The Oral-B i09 and 10 are strong alternative options. I don't feel they offer quite the same refined all-round package as the Prestige, but they are very good options if you want all the tech. Oakley's X Ultra S is also worthy of consideration as it delivers a very comparable experience at a fraction of the price. Best budget and cheap brushes. I'm acutely aware that not everyone can afford these brushes. The good news is that there are some excellent cheaper options. Aquasonic's Black Series or Bitvase D2 are amongst the absolute best value for money as you typically get so much in the box, like a travel case and lots of additional brush heads, bringing ownership costs down significantly. If you prefer a more household name, then the Oral-B Pro 500 is my pick for those on a budget in the USA and Canada, whilst the Vitality Pro is the option for the UK and Central European residents. Those in Australasia are best off opting for the Pro 100. Sonicare's 1100 or 2100 series are also worth serious consideration, but brush heads do tend to work out more expensive. The main downside of budget options is that they tend to lack the pressure sensor I recommend, although this is not an absolute deal breaker if you know you don't brush too hard. Warranty length and ongoing support can potentially be inferior if opting for a lesser known brand. Often it is a trade-off worth making, but it is something to be aware of. My best overall picks explained. It's quite rare for me to handle a bad electric toothbrush, and quite honestly there are many other brushes that I or others could argue are the best brushes on the market today. Make no mistake, coming to the conclusion I have isn't easy. Sonicare's 4100 and 5300 series are excellent contenders, as are many of the Oclean and Ordo toothbrushes. Heck, even other Oral-B models such as the IO3 have a lot going for them. But having used so many brushes, spoken to many dental professionals, and listened to the feedback of thousands of users, I am confident that my recommendations will serve the vast majority of users well. So why have I chosen these Oral-B brushes? They have the essential features I look for: a pressure sensor, a pacer, and a timer. These features help me to perfect my brushing routine when I first started using an electric brush. Perhaps most importantly, they clean my teeth well. My plaque disclosing tests confirm this. Cleaning results from Philips Sonicare brushes are comparable and they have the same features. There is little to separate them, but Sonicare typically works out more expensive, so I recommend the cheaper option. There is a small amount of clinical evidence from studies and peer reviews to suggest that Oral-B brushes offer the best cleaning results, but in the real world I haven't found there to be any notable difference between the oscillating rotating action versus the sonic action of most other brushes. Although personally I do prefer the cleaning action of Oral-B, it gives me the feeling of a deeper clean that lasts longer. One thing I would say about Oral-B is that I found the smaller brush head is easier to position into the tightest of spaces in the mouth. Using the larger heads typically found on sonic toothbrushes can be more of a challenge for those with smaller mouths. Here's a quick look at the other key features I look for. Pacer. All the major brands use a dizzying array of numbers to make claims about how effective their brushes are. How about 3, 5 or 7 times more effective? Or a brush that removes up to 500% more plaque. Whilst correct, these are not figures I'd pay much attention to if buying a new brush. I've learned that brushing technique, time and frequency have a more positive impact. This is where a timer and pacer come into play. I get distracted when brushing just as much as the next person, so if I haven't heard or felt the pacer, I know it's not time to move the brush from one section to the other or stop my brushing. The vast majority of brushes include a pacer. It's such a straightforward feature that I haven't noticed much difference from one manufacturer to another. It's just good to have it included. Timer. When it comes to the 2-minute timer, this means that the brush gives an indication that you have brushed for 2 minutes as advised by dental health professionals. My preferred implementation of this is where the brush powers off automatically at the end of the brushing cycle. However, it's not a big deal if they don't. It doesn't make a big difference to my brushing routine. In fact, it sometimes means that I brush for a bit longer, which is only a good thing. Oral-B brushes don't power off automatically, whereas the Sonicare equivalents do. Although I have a preference, it's not a big enough difference to make me choose Sonicare over Oral-B at this price range. Pressure sensor. I've learnt that brushing hard and faster isn't better. Too much force damages the teeth and gums, so this is why having a pressure sensor is so valuable. The light ring at the top of the Oral-B handle is lit red to alert me when I'm using too much force. Most IO models from Oral-B do the same, but also light up green when the correct pressure is being applied. I do like this feature a lot, but as an experienced toothbrush user, this isn't such an important feature for me because I know the correct amount of force to use. But if you're just getting started with an electric toothbrush, it's a feature worth paying a little bit more for. The cheapest model that comes with this feature is the IO3. I can't say Sonicare have done a bad job with their implementation either. Whilst most models don't have an illuminating pressure sensor, the handle instead produces a very obvious vibration that the Oral-B handles don't. Whilst I don't tend to miss the red light, it is possible to do so. If you're visually impaired, I would recommend going for a vibrating pressure sensor alert. My recommendation here is the Sonicare 4100 series for the Americans and Canadians. The Series 5300 is the better buy for Europeans. If you know you don't brush too hard, then you can save money by opting for the likes of the Oral-B Pro 1000 in the USA and Canada and the Pro 1 in Europe. Reliability. I think the Smart 1500, 2000, Pro 3 and 3500 are very good for what you get. They are tried and tested, and whilst nobody can guarantee reliability, my testing hasn't given me any reason for concern. All come with a 2-year warranty. Buying a brush that costs more than these does not mean better reliability. Subscription brushes from the likes of Quip and Burst do offer lifetime warranties, but you are tied in financially. Generally, I've found toothbrushes from major brands to withstand repeated long-term use. Reliability is sometimes more of a concern with newer, lesser-known brands. SURI is pioneering the way with making brushes more sustainable with repairability in mind. Unfortunately, it still needs to be returned to the manufacturer should it go wrong, but it's a more positive stance than big brands. But select newer models do have user replaceable batteries, even if the brands themselves don't promote this. Other notes from my testing. I'd like to share a few key things I have learned from a decade of testing all manner of brushes. Mouthpiece or automatic toothbrushes are an innovative approach that could well be the future. They can reduce brushing time significantly by covering multiple tooth surfaces at once. In the last 5 years there has been lots of progression. Simple Brush and Wire Brush are two of the best options. I don't think they are a replacement to a regular electric toothbrush yet for most users, but for caregivers and those with specific disabilities, these can be game-changing. British firm Ordo is a shining example of how to be more considerate of specific user needs. They have teamed up with accessories to offer up to 200 different handle adapters that help address the symptoms of arthritis and carpal tunnel syndrome, amongst others, when brushing. Oral-B's newest range of brushes, the IO series, are quieter and more aesthetically pleasing. The brushing sensation does not feel as intense as my recommended brushes. The IO series 3 is the equivalent model to my recommended models. But with brush heads costing about 2 times that of regular Oral-B heads, I find it hard to justify the premium, particularly when I and many others have experienced mould build-up within the head itself. I've linked a video below if you want to learn more. Longer term ownership costs are the main reason why Philips equivalents to my top pick Oral-B models miss out on being my top overall recommendation. The differences are not huge. Over 3 years it's often about $30 to $40 more expensive to own the Sonicare toothbrush. Replacement brush head costs are to blame. Oral-B is ultimately better value, but with the introduction of the IO series that gap is closing and Sonicare may work out better value if you are comparing it to an IO handle. Market leaders Oral-B and Sonicare both produce an unnecessarily confusing array of easily interchangeable brush head options for their handles. I can't stress enough how little you need to worry about the brush head style. None are going to revolutionise the results you get. Ideally, pick a soft bristled head and just brush. Oral-B's Pro Gum Care or the firmer bristled cross action heads are my preferred choices. The latter gives a more invigorating deep clean feeling. Functionality wise, there isn't a great difference between most major brands, but I do think Sonicare handles look better. They appear a little more premium because they use matte finishes rather than the glossier finish of Oral-B handles. There's a slight added resistance to the matte plastic handle of Sonicare. I've noticed that this has a small benefit when the hands are wet. Sonicare is a touch more grippy. The difference isn't significant, but noticeable. There is a lack of textured surfaces with many brushes. This can make gripping handles more difficult, but easier to keep clean. The Oral-B Vitality or Pro 500 are the most grippy handles I've used, thanks to the large rubber panel that wraps almost the entirety of the handle. Current products have used a more angular design on their Hydrosonic handle, which helps achieve a secure grip and angle the brush head at the advised 45 degrees to the gum line. It's a bit pricey given the limited extra benefits. My picks all have multiple brushing modes, including a standard clean and less intense sensitive mode. I feel these two are more than enough for users, new or experienced. The lack of clear icons or labels on these Oral-B handles is a slight frustration, as I don't get the confirmation of what mode is active. But this isn't a deal breaker. I can hear and feel the difference as I brush. Sonicare brushes are around 10 decibels or so quieter than Oral-B. The audible hum of Sonicare is a bit more pleasant to listen to as well. I find the more mechanical and louder sound of the Oral-B brushes is more likely to disturb my wife if I were to brush when she's asleep. Oakley's X Pro Elite and Air 2 are amongst some of the quietest brushes I've used, operating most of the time in the region of 40 decibels. The Air 2 is particularly appealing for those with weak wrists. It's wonderfully lightweight, although the very slim profile might make it harder for those with arthritis to grip. The Quip and Philips One are also light in the hand but lack the power I expect of an electric brush. They are more of a crossover between manual and electric. Some of the budget brushes, namely Oral-B, fail to give feedback on their battery charge level. Most do via an LED. Sonicare, however, has a much more thoughtful design. Whether able-bodied, deaf or blind, I feel the vibration and beep when power is low, but also when placed on the charging stand, is such a helpful touch few other companies seem to have. Oral-B brushes don't tend to have the battery usage time of their competitors. For many, myself included, this isn't a major issue as the charging stand is usually within easy reach. But Sonicare and many other lesser known brands often offer 4+ weeks of use as standard, making Oral-B's 2 weeks look poor. Competitors are too making better use of USB connectivity, be that USB Type-A charging stands or Type-C charging ports built into the handle or cases. If you're a regular traveller, Sonicare, SURI and Oaklean are the brands to look at. Very small improvements are being introduced, but almost all brands lack in regards to their sustainability credentials. When used correctly, for many a manual brush is perfectly satisfactory. They are cheaper with an environmental impact thought to be 11 times less than electric. Electric brushes can make brushing much easier though. They take away a lot of the hard work and can improve plaque removal. B Corp certified SURI is setting the standard for sustainability. The metal handle has been intentionally designed to be repairable at minimal cost. The heads are made from plant-based materials and feel comparable to the leading brand alternatives when in use. The magnetic wall mount is ingeniously simple but useful, helping to keep my countertop clutter-free. And the company has a recycling scheme that puts the major players to shame, and whilst there's a slight price premium, it isn't that significant. Closing thoughts. I believe my best overall recommendations hit the sweet spot of good value for money and the most beneficial features for the average user. If you prefer a different brush, that's fine. Pick the one that you feel you will use. Ideally, it will have the features I recommend. I'd advise making sure you brush twice a day for 2 minutes each time with the correct technique. I've been told repeatedly by professionals that it is more important than a particular brush. This video is full of other useful tips that have helped me improve my oral care routine, such as spitting, not rinsing.